So here's a really good stats question that someone brings up. We're dealing with a player who is 51-47 and he's min raising the button. And Hero actually takes my personal favorite hand, 7-9 suited, and shoves it back. So I think the reshove is cool against a guy who's 51-47 with a 69% steal because we know he's very active. But now we're trying to determine what's the difference between someone who has these really, really crazy stealing stats versus someone who has more modest stealing stats, but it looks like they're still active in stealing. So we're saying compared to someone who's like 25, 23, and a 40% steal. And as I hope you know by now, and if you don't, here's a good little light bulb moment. Someone usually with a 40% steal is someone who is active. So when you see someone with a 69% steal, it implies someone who's super duper active. Um, but there is one clear distinction we have to make, and that's what type of stealer is this? Because there's going to be players who are stealing because they know that it's a good play, they know it's profitable, but they have discipline and can fold to reshoves, versus the players who are just wanting to play every pot. They're a maniac, so they're not really stealing in a strategic manner. They're stealing more in a I'm psycho, I'm just going to click buttons, and they're the ones who are more likely to raise call you. So when you're facing a potential reshove spot, I actually prefer to reshove against someone who would be in the 25-23 department because it actually implies someone who has a little bit more discipline. But the one thing that is really important is where these stats come from. Now, if you're in an end game scenario and someone's 51-47, it might not be a hyper turbo because usually if you don't have too many hands on someone in a hyper turbo, they're going to tend to be more of the early stage hands, unless you've played a full game with them. But then those hands, they would be spread out throughout the course of the whole game. But if you get deep in a bigger field game like a 45 or 180 man, and then you see someone who's 51-47, that would actually be someone who is raising a lot. And the way that you can instantly, for sure, detect if they're a good player or not would just be to look at their results. And so if you see someone who's crazy and has these crazy stats, but it's also someone who is very, very, very good, then it means that they're just really, really wide and stealing, and they're not going to be calling you with really stupid hands. If you find someone who has these crazy stats, the 51-47, and they're a losing player or they're a huge break-even player, this is someone who's probably going to raise call you with a lot of dumb hands. So overall, I would prefer to go against the 25-23 guy, but if the player is a decent one, a 51-47 player would be a great person to reshove against because those are the guys who are stealing, but stealing well. So I hope this helps because I think this is a kind of an advanced thing. It doesn't happen all too much, but it's definitely something that can improve your results and make your plays a lot more accurate. See ya.